Hello, hello, hello. Okay, keeping in my tradition of at least my my 2 days before this tradition of doing Canada Reads. I watched Canada Reads Day 3, so we still had three books in contention. Both Two Trees Make a Forest and the Midnight Decision, the Polk book, had been eliminated, and this for this day we had hench, we had two butter honey pig bread, and Johnny Appleseed up for contention. And sort of like yesterday, we had a good delivery of, you know, reader reactions to stuff because uh, um, the defender of Johnny Appleseed, Devery, um, raised the words trauma porn when talking about butter honey pig bread, and immediately kind of tried to retract it. Immediately said like, look, that wasn't, I shouldn't have used that words. That was incorrect. Doesn't like apply to that. But Roger Mooking definitely kind of saw his opportunity, jumped on those words, and kind of launched into a very kind of heartfelt thing about how trauma is real. That this time of COVID, there's lots of stuff in his own personal life. He has had plenty of trauma, and this isn't trauma porn, which is like it's a debate, um, and you can see him pushing his point forward, you know, and at the same time, I think uh, the use of trauma porn, saying something is trauma porn, to me at least, is that when an author uses trauma uh, for in a way that is to exploit the trauma, is a way of being disrespectful to very real trauma in the world. I think about my reaction to it's like extremely loud and terribly close, or whatever the hell the name of the book is, the 9/11 book by Jonathan. What's his name? I can't even remember his name. It doesn't matter. I had a really visceral reaction to that because I felt like the novelist was exploiting the trauma of 9/11, using the grief of a precocious, not particularly to me very believable child character, to try and wring out kind of false tears for me in making that, in doing that book. And I haven't read Butter Honey Pig Bread, and it doesn't sound like that. It is engaging in that, and that was a fatal flaw of that, of the defender, to use that to give him a chance to kind of lay down, trauma is real, therefore this book is valid, kind of thing. I think books, if in some ways, I think if you are a book that is dealing with trauma, it behooves you to be even a better book, even to be more careful, to be more respectful in your use of it. And this book perhaps has. There's also sort of personal tastes of, it's like, certain people. I can get overwhelmed by a story to the point where I can't hear the story anymore. Something is so awful, so terrible, either in the way it's told or in the way it's pushed at me, that I shut down, and it fails. The book would fail to communicate to me. That doesn't make the trauma behind it, the real life depictions, any less valid. It just means that this book, as a communication device, failed to reach me because I just wasn't able to do it. Now that could be a failure as me as a reader. I don't think that an author necessarily has to think about the sensitivities of all the readers. Might not be targeting a book towards me. It's interesting how many books that people will say, like, look, I'll say for like myself, suicide. Someone might say, like, look, this book deals with suicide. If this is something that's really bothers you, really troubles you, it might be a book that you might want to take a pass on. Or someone might make a case of, like, hey, you know what, this book deals with it in such a way that a thoughtful, sensitive way that isn't going for those kind of cheap shots, isn't trying to traumatize you in the reading of it. That you could actually read this book on a subject. Yeah, that would be a sensitive subject to me. Um, and so I think it's a valid. I think it's a valid criticism. It's a valid thing to flag up. Um, so yeah, that was a really interesting conversation they had. They kind of motioned towards in the debates there. It's like that's another really good one, a really good little mini debate within Canada Reads, which I really enjoyed on this day 3. Um, so yes, they had the clash, and again they had a tie. They had a tie between Hench and Butter Honey Pig Bread. 2 votes for each, and then they needed to do a tiebreaker, which because of how the rules of the game go, the people who had already voted for it couldn't cast a vote for something else. So then it goes to the people who didn't vote for the book, and that turned out to be Roger Mooking, who was a defender of Butter Honey Pig Bread. So he voted obviously for Hench, and Hench is out. And now we are down to the final 2, that being Butter Honey Pig Bread and Johnny Appleseed, which it's interesting going forward. I've heard a lot of kind of people kind of reluctant on Butter Honey Pig Bread. I just got 2 votes in this round of people not quite jibing with it, whether it's because it's too literary, got too much of the language, so it wasn't allowing people into it, or wondering about maybe a passivity. I think passivity of the characters. You see, I haven't read any of these books, so whereas Johnny Appleseed, for the most part, seems to have kind of been underneath the radar with a lot of the criticism. So it'll be interesting to see, now that there is nowhere to hide, how Johnny Appleseed will fare with the contestants going forward. But yeah, it's like, who cares who wins? I'm here for the kind of the bookish discussions that they have and the bookish issues that come up, which I think actually I've been fairly impressed with Canada Reads this year. That it doesn't seem to be like what I would consider bullshit arguments. As a inveterate book reader myself, I'm not being snobby. It's like, no, these are things that come up when you're reading a book all the time. So I've been enjoying this. All right, more videos later.